Hello and welcome to the next edition of my Java Leetcode problems. Today we will be doing another easy problem. Today's problem is going to be called minimum time visiting all points. So that is the problem there if you want to look on it. Okay, so going through this problem, we have the description here at the top. On a plane, so it's talking about an XY plane, there are endpoints with integer coordinates. Points I, which is assigned the x position and the y coordinate. Your task is to find the minimum time in seconds to visit all points. You can move according to the next rules. So here's the rules for how we can figure out how to solve this. In 1 second, always, you can either move vertically, so along the y-axis, or horizontally, so along the x-axis, by 1 unit, or diagonally, so you can go up up one in y, up one in x, and that is also considered just one move. And you can do the same in the opposite direction. You have to visit the points in order as they appear in the array. Okay, so we have two examples here. Example 1, we have the multidimensional array here, points, and in it we have two integer points. The first one is 3, 2, and the second is -2, 2. The output here is 5. Now let's see how they were able to discover that. And we can actually look at the second example, I think, for better description on that. So in the second example, we have points 1, 1, 3, 4, and -1, 0. And now, there are many different paths you can solve this with, but the path that they took in this explanation is that you can go from the point 1, 1 to 2, 2 to 3, 3, and then you only need to go up one more in the y-coordinate there to get to 3, 4. And that right there represents 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. 3 moves. After you get to this 3, 4, which is this middle coordinate, you're going to go from 3, 4 to -1, 0. So 3, 4 to 2, 3 to 1, 2 to 0, 1, and then you're just going to take off 1 from each again and -1, 0. And this was 4 moves. 1, 2, 3, 4. And so that was going to be 4 seconds. So you can see the time they took from the first to the second was 3 seconds. From the second point to the third point was 4 seconds. In total, the total time was 7 seconds. So we know we're going to have to figure out some kind of counter or summer to be able to count all of these seconds that we need to count. Example 1, I hope makes sense to you. If you look at the difference between 3 and -2, it is 5. And 2 and 2 is 4. But remember, it still costs 1 second to go either horizontally or vertically. So even if we can't do a full diagonal move, it's still going to cost us 1 second. Okay, so let's look at how we're going to solve this. So down here, I've got my two methods inside the class minimum time visiting all points. We have the first method. It returns an integer here. This method is called min time to visit all points. And as a parameter, it takes an integer multidimensional array, 3D array of points, called points. Sorry. Down here we have our main method, which we'll use to run this at the end here. So at the very beginning of this problem, when I was thinking about this, we know we have to count seconds here. So we're going to want an int counter of seconds, of total seconds. There we go. And we'll initialize that at 0, because we know if we have just one input, we're only going to be doing, it's going to be 0 if you can't move anywhere from there. Okay, now, thinking about this, what I think would be the best solution here is if we had a for loop that could go through each of these points. So we need to start here at this first point, go to the second point, and then go to the third point. And we need to compare each point with the point before it, or sorry, the point after it. So we need to compare these two coordinates with these coordinates. And then we need to compare these coordinates with these coordinates. And we can do that with a for loop. So we'll do that down here. We'll say a for I. That's a great thing about IntelliJ. We can do a little shortcut there. We're going to initialize I at 0. And then we're actually going to do it up to paths dot, oh, sorry, not paths, points dot length. Okay, so now this is going to go through this multidimensional array from here to here to here, up to, but not including the actual length itself. So in this case, the length would be 3. It would run 2 times. Okay, so now inside here, we need to have 2 int arrays. And these are just going to be simple arrays because they're going to hold the point. So this first array here, this int array, is going to hold first coordinates, or first coordinate, sorry. And we can even do this first xy coordinate to make that more sense. And we're going to initialize this as equal to points I. Okay, so now what that's doing is that's grabbing the first array out of this multidimensional array. So it's going to grab that first array, that 1, 1, and assign that array into this first xy coordinate array. Then we need a second one, and this is going to be our second xy coordinate. And this one's going to be on points I plus 1. Now, something we want to point out here. Because I'm using the I plus 1 here inside of this, saying what position I'm grabbing in this multidimensional array, if we keep this up here as going up to but not including points.length, we will only get these two, and then it will actually move up to this one as well, and we'll get an array out of bounds index error. So we need to do points.length minus 1 because we did this plus 1 down here. Okay, so now we have our first xy coordinate and we have our second xy coordinate. So now we need to figure out the difference between the first xy coordinate and the second xy coordinate. Now we have the x and we have the y. So we need to look at the difference between both the x, so 1 and 3, and the difference between 1 and 4. Whatever has the greater difference, that difference is going to tell us how many seconds it takes to get there. For instance, if we look at 1, 1, and 3, 4, from 1 to 3 is 2. That's the difference between them. From 1 to 4, the absolute difference is 3. You'll notice down here that 3 seconds corresponds with the amount of time it took. Next example, from 3 to negative 1 takes 4. That's 4 is the absolute difference between there. And from 4 to 0 is 4 is the absolute difference. So once again, it's going to be 4, and 3 plus 4 is 7. So let's do that. We need to find the absolute difference. So difference of x coordinates, and sorry, we're going to initialize this as an integer, and this is going to equal, so here we're going to do math. And the reason why we're doing math here is because math is a great class that has a lot of cool methods to it. One of those methods is the absolute method. This is going to take the absolute between this difference that I'm going to write here. So this difference is going to be the first xy coordinate, and we're going to grab the x coordinate from there, so that's going to be the first, that's going to be the 0, which is the 0 down here. And we're going to subtract from that the second xy coordinate, and this is also going to start, we're going to grab that 0 from there. Okay, so now we have the difference of the x coordinates, the absolute difference, is going to go into this integer. We can do a second one, difference of y coordinates for the y's, equals, once again we're going to do math.absolute, or abs, and we're going to do the first xy coordinate, but here we're grabbing the y coordinate, so we're going to grab y, and we're subtracting from that the second xy coordinate, and here we're also grabbing the y, so we're grabbing the first, or what 1 actually means is the second, so this is the y, and the 0 means the 1, the x. So we're subtracting our x's, we're subtracting our y's, we're getting the absolute difference between the two of those. So we now have the absolute difference between the x coordinates, we now have the absolute difference between the y coordinates. Now we just need to add that into our counter of total seconds so that it adds whatever math. I'm going to use another math thing here. It's called math.max. Math.max takes whatever the larger number is between the two things. So we're going to say difference of x coordinates and difference of y coordinates. Okay. Now this method will say which of these is bigger. Whichever one's of those bigger, it's going to add that to the counter of total seconds. And so now, after that, we should have our solution. And down here, we return counter of total seconds. Okay. Let's look at our, let's test this real quick. So we need to first start with an int multidimensional array. To do that, you start with the int with 2 square brackets, or 4 square brackets, sorry. And then you're going to call, we'll call it points as well. And we'll assign to this a new int multidimensional array. And you need to give it a size. So we'll do this second example here. So the size of this is going to be 1, 2, 3. So size is 3. Notice we don't put anything in the other box though, because we'll put those in right now. So int this can be the first coordinate equals new, excuse me, points, let me rewrite that. So points 0, so this is going to be the first situation here. So point 0, that's this one, is going to be assigned new int array, and it's going to be 1 and 1. Okay, so that's going to be what's going to be in the first coordinate. We can just copy that, and we'll do 2 more. This next one's going to be points 1 and points 2. And we had 1, 1, then we had 3, 4, and negative 1, 0. So we had 3, 4, and negative 1, 0. Okay, then we're going to just take an int total seconds equals, and we'll assign that the minimum time to visit all points, and we'll put in points here. Okay, hopefully unlike my last video, we won't find an error here. And we'll print that out so we can see that here on the console. Total seconds. There we go. Okay, and let's run that and see what we get. So we should get back 7 here, if this is running correctly. Okay, and we'll see here that we got back 7. So remember, what this is doing is this is basically grabbing the first xy coordinate, the second xy coordinate. So we're grabbing the first xy coordinate, the second xy coordinate, and we're finding what the absolute difference is between those coordinates. Whichever has the greater difference, either the x coordinates or the y coordinates, we're going to add that greater difference to the counter of total seconds, and finally return that counter of total seconds in the end. And then here in main, we're just adding our data and testing it out. Okay, that should be it for the video today. Thank you so much, and I appreciate you guys. If you like what you saw here and you'd like to see more, please subscribe and please like. And if you have any comments about further optimization that I can do, I'd love to hear it, and please post a comment below. Thank you so much.